Ben Shapiro comes on to essentially like struggle session Megyn Kelly, because Megyn Kelly is sitting here saying Tucker's not an anti-Semite, and Tucker's an anti-Semite for saying someone else isn't an anti-Semite. So she's guilty of the same thing by transfer, like she's guilty of the exact same thing. So why don't you call her out to her face? Would it just start to sound too retarded at that point? Like how many guilt by association levels can we get to here?
Remember when the Zionist right used to ridicule liberal struggle sessions? And I think rightly so, calling them snowflakes for not wanting to take on the arguments and just yelling racism at everything? Well, a lot of those same Zionist right-wing forces, like Ben Shapiro, are now the conductors of the same exact struggle sessions, just against their own tribe. It's absurd. Dave Smith breaks it down. Let's watch. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And you might notice this again just during this whole last week, where Tucker Carlson being made out to be that, Candace Owens being made out to be, oh, these are the people who need to be canceled. But then you might also notice that they're number one and number two, however exactly you want to measure it. And so it's like, no, this isn't exactly a civil war. This is very similar to 2016. And again, for the same reasons. It's the war party versus the people. It's a much more accurate way to characterize it than a civil war. This isn't like divided. It's not like if you just talk to random Republicans and go, hey, should we be sending a bunch of money overseas right now? No, we shouldn't. Like any more than the Republicans were divided on immigration. They're not divided on Tucker Carlson or Donald Trump for that matter. So anyway, that's one thing. And I would just say that I guess it's obviously this is it's very in our wheelhouse. Like this is the world that we exist in. And also on this show, I've kind of had like all of the people involved in this, well, at least all of the ones on a certain side of it. Happy to have the other ones on. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, open invite. Come on out. Let's talk about it.
They won't.
But anyway, it's just, so there's been more going on with that. And it's hard not to talk about because it does seem to be so relevant, like much like with Donald Trump. While it's not a civil war, there is kind of like, to use the phrase that me and you maybe don't love the most, but like a battle for the soul of the right wing in America. It does seem like something like that is going on.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on Dave here. I completely agree with his conception. If we're dealing with regular Americans, then yeah, this does look to be like the power holders in the war party versus Americans rather than a GOP civil war. But we're not just dealing with Americans and how they perceive this. If we were just dealing with how Americans perceive this, we would end all aid to Israel tomorrow. We wouldn't get involved in any of this, but we're dealing with a Republican political class that is still very hell-bent in the direction of Israel first. The Zionist lobby and AIPAC have incredible control over their voting patterns and their impulses and their rhetoric. They go to kiss the wall in Jerusalem. How can we say otherwise? So in Dave's conception, yeah, if we're talking about the American populace at large, sure, but it's very clear that the party establishment of the GOP, there is a civil war over this rift regarding Israel and all of the ramifications of that rift, which do spill into both our foreign policy and our domestic policy, as we talked about on this channel.
It certainly just feels like censorship in the name of special interest, and I hadn't thought about it, but you're so right that it's early Donald Trump. It's the same thing as COVID. You're crazy for not getting the vaccine. They're trying to shame Republicans and go, all these people that you prefer listening to are not actually conservative, and they're dangerous to the party. It's just the new form of censorship. That's all it is.
Well, and you see that, right, Rob? Yeah, exactly. But you also see that when look, it's like, even if they'll say like, okay, here's our beef with Nick Fuentes is that he's said anti-Semitic things. And then you go like, okay, but Tucker Carlson doesn't have any of that baggage, right? And you're just as mad as him. So like, it seems like that's really not what it's about. Or they'll be like, Candace, digs into too many conspiracies that are unfounded. And you'll go like, okay, but then like, me and you don't really do that now, do we? Does anyone want to argue with us about any of our conspiracy? Like, what are our conspiracies, Rob, over the last 10 years together? Or that Trump wasn't a Russian spy? Like, what conspiracy is it that we buy into? That the vaccine wouldn't stop you from getting COVID and might actually like injure you? Is that a conspiracy? Like literally go and so.
Yeah, the right isn't even using that rhetoric anymore. The establishment right certainly isn't. when that happened, when this issue was controversial and people like Ben Shapiro weighed into it, he said, "Get the vaccine, you dopes." When they unleashed COVID regime propaganda, imposed religious worship restrictions, closed down businesses, had curtailments of public assembly, shut down schools and school programs, which generally I think would be a good thing if that did encourage some private schooling, but this was all society shutting down to deal with this abstraction in the air that we all had to space apart from each other 6 feet, even though Fauci later admitted to a congressional committee that the 6 feet rule just came out of nowhere. Ben Shapiro during these times said, "Get the vaccine, you dopes." It's just the other type of censorship that is unfurled. They use the same propaganda. You're just a conspiracy theorist. You're just an anti-Semite. You just, espouse blood libel if you don't agree with me and my prioritization of this foreign regime over your own community.
Even the people, but they hate us just as much as they hate them too. So after a while, it is kind of hard to not go, it really seems to be that the issue here is like, these are the people against the war party. Seems to be the only thing that really explains all of it. And okay, so the latest chapter in this was that Megyn Kelly, who I got to say, I really do like Megyn Kelly, and I thought she was very reasonable in this. But so she was doing some event. I forget exactly who was it connected to Turning Point or something, or maybe it was just her own event. But she was doing an event, so she interviewed Tucker Carlson, and then the next day or later in that day, she interviewed Ben Shapiro. And the Tucker Carlson, we obviously already had him on the show, and he said some of the same things, but it was just obviously being correct. It's just not even, I don't know, just undeniably right about all this stuff. But there was this part with Ben Shapiro. So then Ben Shapiro comes on to essentially like struggle session Megyn Kelly for why she should be calling out the bigotry of all these other people. And there was this moment that happened here. Now, full disclosure, I did Liam McCullum's show the other day. I love Liam. I think he's great. Me and we hung out with him last time we were out in Montana, and he's great. You guys should follow Liam McCullough. Really, really sharp young guy. One of the best young guys in our space. And so we talked about this clip on there. I had to do this with you, Rob, and I had to do this on our show. So apologies to all you guys who saw that show, but we're going to go over the same one again because it's just too wild. So let's play that, and then me and Rob will respond. But here is Ben Shapiro. Try to keep up with this here. Here's Ben Shapiro trying to get Megyn Kelly to condemn Tucker Carlson. And wait for it, Rob. Here's why.
My point is that that's not his point. And again, none of this.
So we disagree.
We disagree on the interpretation of what Tucker has been doing for the past 2 years. And it's very difficult for me to believe that Tucker is merely anti-Israel when, for example, today, in his newsletter, I can directly quote it if you'd like, in his newsletter today, he claimed that Zoran Mamdani is not anti-Semitic.
Okay, so this is what Ben Shapiro is saying. Because Tucker Carlson does not believe that Zoran Mamdani is anti-Semitic, that makes him by default anti-Semitic. Just think about that. That is literally what he's arguing at this point. How does that even remotely make sense? Even if it was true or false. Let's say if it was true, that doesn't make Tucker Carlson anti-Semitic. If it was false, it doesn't make Tucker Carlson anti-Semitic. This is absurd, and I can't believe it's having any persuasive pull over the American people. It's just so absurd. Why do these people do this? Do they think this is a more viable strategy in convincing people than actually trying to take on these arguments? I'm not sure. Maybe if they did try to take on these arguments, it would be worse because the arguments surely are not on their side. That's what every poll is reflecting right now. But it seems like this strategy that's so absurd might be even worse.
This was his newsletter today, this morning. I'm happy to read the text. It's pretty. It's a little extraordinary because again, it is kind of shocking.
Yeah,
I'll let you go first if you want to comment on this, but it's already just such a flaw in logic,
dude. It's the reason why I just love this is Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro. Facts don't care about your feelings. Accusations of bigotry can't shut down debates. I remember this one time he was arguing with some crazy leftist college chick, and she was talking about implicit bias. and this idea of like you have some implicit bias or implicit racism or something like that. And he was like, yeah, but like, I don't know, like you don't even know what your motivations are yourself. Sometimes you don't even know those. And now you're saying what the motivations that you don't even know are your motivations are your motivations. He goes, this is just ghost hunting, man. Like, and it was like, it was such a good point just to tear apart their argument.
It was, and that's what Zionism uses right now, ghost hunting. There's a Holocaust around the corner. Anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's a dangerous force in America. Blood libel, anti-Semitism. We're not going to take on the arguments. That's what they're doing here too. It is so absurd to fight these abstractions this way and to, introduce red herrings and subterfuge to get around the fact, no, it's just Americans don't want to support this foreign regime above their own communities now. That's what Ben Shapiro is doing. It literally is a struggle session. It is ghosts. It's hunting phantoms.
This same guy is now. Yes, if you didn't quite catch this, okay, keep this. This is literally what Ben Shapiro is doing. Ben Shapiro is saying, Megyn Kelly, you ought to be condemning Tucker Carlson for being an anti-Semite. He's not just anti-Israel. He's anti-Semitic. How is he anti-Semitic? Well, he's anti-Semitic because he said another guy wasn't anti-Semitic. Just think about the leap of that already, okay? But like obviously you could, like, if there is someone who really hates Jews, me saying he doesn't hate Jews doesn't make me hate Jews. It might make me incorrect about this guy, but that does not, like, it doesn't even follow from that. But
yeah, let's be real, guys. Let's just be real about what Ben Shapiro is. Like, what's the impulse driving him? He's a wokester. He's woke. He's just the Zionist flavor of woke. This type of strategy is just indistinguishable from liberal wokeness. Trying to obfuscate, shut down the conversation, not talk about any issue related to Israel, which he's supposed to be such an expert on. That's supposed to be his driving issue, right? But he does everything but argue that subject, just like Douglas Murray did. I mean, to Coleman Hughes' credit, he did debate that with Dave. I think he got his ass handed to him, but even he wasn't ready to defend Netanyahu, and he said that very plainly. So the people willing to actually debate these topics are few and far between. And it's not going to work. I'm sorry. If you try to manipulate fence sitters into denouncing people as anti-Semites for saying someone else isn't anti-Semitic, you're just going to pull them in the direction of the rest of us, in the direction of logic. And I think that's what's happened on a grand scale here is the Zionist argumentation strategy and methodology is actually turning people off even more than the issue itself is turning people off.
Look, let's just finish the rest of the clip, Rob, because it's just more fun to trash when you actually hear here's the evidence of why Tucker Carlson's anti-Semitic.
So here's what Tucker Carlson wrote in his newsletter today, or what his newsletter says under his name. He said, "Is the incoming mayor a fan of Israel? Does he want America to fight its wars? Not particularly. But a Jew hater? That's a different conversation. We've never seen anything to suggest he falls into that ugly camp. If we're talking about fighting the left, defending Zohar Mamdani, who literally said that he has no opinion whether Hamas should disarm, who posed alongside the 1993 World Trade Center unindicted co-conspirator, who would not disarm, globalize the Intifada, who suggested that whenever there is a New York Police Department boot on somebody's neck, it's an IDF lacing the strings, to suggest that that's not anti-Semitic in any way? No way.
Okay, but listen.
Or when
I'm going to give you a defense of Tucker here, and I don't need to defend Tucker because I'm not Tucker.
Tucker can perfectly
but
well
I'll just
defend
say,
himself.
I think in general, because I know him and I listen to him and I understand generally where he's coming from. He would say his problems are with Israel, and he would say that shot that Mamdani laid against the IDF is a shot against the IDF and Israel and how he thinks they're pro-war, not against Jews.
Okay.
And I think
all I can say is when Tucker Carlson finds himself in complete alignment with Zohar Mamdani, it is very difficult for me to believe that he does not agree with Zohar Mamdani.
I think Tucker is in a place right now of the same place that Charlie was getting to toward the end of his life, the same place that some people had tried to drive me, which is you're under withering, nonstop accusations of being something you know you're not.
Well,
but from some
here,
people
you can pause it right there.
I mean, how ridiculous is this? We're now on 4 tiers of guilt by association that he wants to make Megyn Kelly, denounce Tucker Carlson for. So she should denounce Tucker Carlson for being an anti-Semite. Why? Because he doesn't think Zohar Mamdani is an anti-Semite. And why does Ben Shapiro think Zoran Mandami is an anti-Semite? Because of these associations with other people. So now we're 4 layers deep on this struggle session Inception, like the movie Inception. That's where we're going on this. This is just going to eat the Zionist right up. I guess I'm here for it. I'm here for every moment of it when it's guilt by association. So now it's going to be this person talked to Tucker, so you can't associate with that person. And that person that associated with Tucker can't be dealt with sincerely because they're anti-Semitic. And then how many tiers does this go deep, Ben? Can Ben answer that? We're 4 tiers deep now, and that's why Tucker's an anti-Semite in his mind. You can't even fathom this, man. I can't even believe I'm seeing it.
I just love Megyn Kelly going, yeah, and we could end the clip there, but it's like Megyn Kelly's basically going, yeah, I think Tucker's in the same place Charlie found himself in that I find myself in, where it's like, you guys are just such like, I don't know what to, it's like, dude, honestly, I'm sorry, I'm not putting words in Megyn Kelly's mouth, and she handled this better than I would have probably, but like, the idea that you go, Tucker is, I think about this, Rob, Tucker's an anti-Semite because he says this guy is not an anti-Semite, and the proof that this guy's an anti-Semite is that he refuses to condemn the phrase globalize the intifada. Like, by the way, you know, the IDF has been involved in training American police. It's not that crazy to make a point that there's nothing anti-Jewish about talking about a foreign military that has a relationship with American domestic police. And there's nothing, his opinion about whether Hamas should disarm or should not disarm, I mean, that's a pretty I don't know. There's lots of opinions on that don't mean you hate Jews. And then again, anyway, this is just so pathetic, Rob. What can you say about this? He's a big, well then honestly, if just by extending this logic, then Megyn Kelly's an anti-Semite too, right? Because Megyn Kelly is sitting here saying Tucker's not an anti-Semite, and Tucker's an anti-Semite for saying someone else isn't an anti-Semite. So she's guilty of the same thing by transfer, like she's guilty of the exact same thing. So why don't you call her out to her face? Would it just start to sound too retarded at that point? Like, how many guilt by association levels can we get to here?
That's exactly what this is. It's the struggle session Inception. How many tiers do we go into before someone in that chain is finally not anti-Semitic, and Ben Shapiro's twisted logic on this? It's just so insane. And he's right. Dave's right. If Ben Shapiro was courageous, he'd just say, hey, Megyn Kelly, you're an anti-Semite for supporting him, for saying what he would say, that Zoran Mandami, there's no evidence that he's anti-Semitic. And that's the reason why he is anti-Semitic. He's just not fooling anyone with this. These Israel First Zionists are not fooling anyone. You know, Americans are waking up to this. Dave was right about that at the beginning of this video. Whether you think this is really indicative of a GOP civil war, a MAGA civil war, or not, Americans in general have woken up to this. I'm with him on that 100%. But we're still dealing with a political class that's occupied by the Israel lobby, by the Israel First mentality when it comes to give them as much money as possible, as much intelligence, as much weaponry, cheer for their prime minister, who, by the way, is a genocidal maniac when he comes into a joint session of Congress, give him more adulation and praise than you would any U.S. president, and let that Israel First mentality spill into our own debt, our own inflation, with the central bank printing new paper money to support it, which is a tax on all of us. It imposes the invisible tax of inflation on all of us. Rewrite our hate speech codes to protect that foreign regime. Call it anti-Semitism if it takes that. That's what these people are saying, but we're not doing that anymore. We're not going back. So I do think there's a MAGA civil war to some extent. Not in terms of America. If you do talk to Americans, again, I'm with Dave. You ask them, should we send this money overseas to Israel? There'll be a few of them that believe in that, for sure. But the political class, by and large on the right, in the GOP, does believe in that. Whether they're compromised, whether there's blackmail, whether it's just AIPAC influence, that is true. And I think this is a civil war that needs to play out, because we need something different than this left-wing, right-wing paradigm, than the Republican-Democrat paradigm. We need this new single-issue coalition that dissidents on both sides can unite under, if for nothing else. I know people watching this won't agree with me on everything, including economics, or the regulatory apparatus, or even my interpretations of history and stuff like that. But most people watching can get behind America First as it manifests into this twisted and perverted Israel First doctrine that our political class toes the line on. So let's do that. Let's do that together. Let's break that old left-right paradigm. Let's not sacrifice our own principles. You don't have to do that. You don't have to agree with me on economics, but let's unite on this. And maybe we fight a different day on economics. What do you guys think about that? Is that a fair arrangement? Is Dave Smith right about this? Is it ironic that Ben Shapiro, of all people, that condemned liberal struggle sessions as being indicative of being a snowflake, of being a loser, of being a coward, is the one spearheading them on the American right now, just in favor of Israel? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Dave Smith too. Awesome presentation, awesome segment. He gets this one totally right. If you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member of mine. Also, you can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, I'll give you access to all of my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. You'll be able to see all those members-only videos right away. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you off to a site. You plug in your email, I'll send that to you completely for free, no obligation, in PDF form. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.